Okay, so that's number one. Let's go to number two. So this is number one thing you could do to boost your resilience and stress hardiness. This is super fascinating. So I can't remember how I came upon McGonigal. I think it probably was a TED Talk on YouTube. She's a rock star in the gaming field. She has a PhD, and I think it's the psychology of gaming. And her twin sister happens to be Kelly McGonigal. If you're into positive psychology, you recognize that name. She's a very one of the leaders in the positive psychology field. Well, Jane McGonigal has a really fascinating backstory that she got a really horrible concussion from, of all things, smashing the corner of her head on a kitchen cabinet. Or I should say, she smashed her head on the corner of a kitchen cabinet. She probably doesn't have a corner on her head. And her concussion was so bad, she had to lie in a room, a dark room, no screens, no light, for weeks on end. And she ended up getting concussion-induced depression, including concussion-induced suicidal thoughts. And what she decided to do to blast herself out of this, if you will, is to use both positive psychology and gaming psychology. And she ended up developing a process, and she based on gaming psychology and positive psychology, primarily gaming psychology. And she ended up creating a program called Super Better and writing a book, as you can see, called Super Better. It's become one of my all-time favorite books. And she has a website, I think it's superbetter.org, where people can use her computer game, to do all kinds of things, whether it's help them with depression, anxiety, develop healthy habits, deal with phobias, you name it. And so here's the aspect of what she came up with that's so incredibly helpful, and especially during difficult times. And it's to use the philosophy of power-ups, or the concept of power-ups in video games. So this is obviously very retro. Pac-Man, those pellets, little Pac-Man character eats a bunch of those pellets, becomes bigger, and can chomp down or kill the bigger ghost. Super Mario, the mushrooms, Angry Birds, the seeds. So the whole idea of power-ups is you consume this and you're more powerful. So I'm just going to go through finish these sentences quickly. But again, if this was live and in person, well, this was live and in person, I would ask you to write those down. But hey, obviously you can pause the video. So I really encourage you to do that, because I want this to be interactive as possible. So here we go. I feel most alive and happy when is that? Here are two simple, quote, little things in life that boost my mood. So let's say playing with your dog, or talking with a friend, or just walking in the woods, for instance. It would make me a happier camper, and maybe even healthier if I started doing X again. So maybe it's if I started doing yoga again, or started just exercising more, or doing stretches, whatever it is. So go ahead and think or write answers to that, and then we'll move on. So whatever you wrote, those are some of your power-ups. Anything that boosts your mood, that makes you happier, makes you feel better, those are power-ups. And here's the thing about power-ups. They don't just boost our mood. They build mental and physical resilience. This gets back to good old Stephen Porges and the polyvagal theory. So what the heck is that? Well, the vagus nerve, you see that right there is the vagus nerve. It's sort of the ground zero of the mind-body connection, the nexus between mind and body. And so it plays a major, major role in how your thoughts affect your emotions and physiology, and how your emotions and physiology affect your thoughts and the way you see the world. Now, strengthen vagal tone. I encourage you just to Google strengthen vagal tone. There's also a bunch of cool articles. I think this next slide, yeah, on hacks, if you will, that strengthen vagal tone. So you see this title. It's a great way of thinking about vagal tone. The neurobiology of grace under pressure. 8 habits to stimulate your vagus nerve and keep you calm, cool, and collected. So you can also Google strengthen vagal tone hacks, and there are various articles that are a dozen to over 20 things that boost. One thing that boosts vagal tone is cold showers. Isn't that fun? And also cold showers boost your dopamine level, which is a feel-good biochemical. There are other things. High intensity interval training is another way of boosting dopamine, a great way. So here's the deal. The stronger your vagus nerve is, or your vagal tone, the more resilient you are. So just think of strength of vagal tone just as how effective your vagus nerve is. And if you want to geek out on it, it's actually really fascinating. Um, you can go ahead and just Google that. Although I'm reaching for a book here. Love, this is backwards. Okay, Love 2.0 by Barbara Fredrickson, who's also big in the psychology field, um, has all sorts of really cool info on the research on vagal tone. And actually, I'm going to quote that in a minute. So strong vagal tone makes you less reactive, whether it's daily hassles or bigger or major life challenges, less affected by difficult people and difficult circumstances. So like, what's not to love about strong vagal tone? But again, it's more than that. The stronger a vagal tone, the healthier we are. And actually, back to the number one factor in resilience. I kind of got off on some other things. I forgot to make sure I tied up that loose end. So what researchers have found is that the number one factor in how well a person handles a traumatic event is not how they process it after, which, as a former therapist, I thought, whether they deal with their feelings and talk it out and that sort of thing. It's not that. It's not their reaction and what they do with their self-talk, et cetera. Again, with all the work that I've done in this field, I thought it would be the coping after. It's what happened before, which is how strong the vagal tone is. That the vagal tone, think of like a Kevlar vest, and the hassles, the difficulties, the difficult people just bounce off that vest if you have strong vagal tone. So fortunately, there are things that we can do to strengthen our vagal tone. So I just want to point this out because I want to make this clear, because I'm sort of on two different tracks. Power-ups in and of themselves, because they boost our emotional state, are fantastic, and such a simple, useful, actionable technique that we can implement every day to boost our spirits. But also at a deeper physiological mind-body connection level, power-ups boost our vagal tone. They strengthen our vagal tone. So you strengthen vagal tone and build resilience by, and this is what's really fascinating about the research on vagal tone. What they found was what people who had high vagal tone, they had little microbursts of positive emotions throughout the day. So the fun conversation with a friend, the quick walk around the building, the reading a funny blog post, whatever it is. So it was the accumulation of little moments of positivity. It was not a result. So strong vagal tone was not a result of orchestrating or waiting for some big uplifting occasion. Like, okay, I'm stressed out out of my mind, but I'm just going to hang on until my summer vacation. No, that doesn't do it. It's the little mini boosts throughout the day. What was also interesting, though, and this surprised me, was people with strong vagal tone, they didn't have any fewer negative emotions throughout the day. They just had a lot more positive ones. So you think about the implications of that. So you're not out of luck if you're feeling despairing or overwhelmed or disconsolate or whatever negative emotional states throughout the day, like, oh man, my vagal tone's going down the drain. No, it's just you want to very intentionally be doing things that boost your vagal tone, i.e. power-ups. So the name of the game is seek out and create little microbursts of positive emotion. So one of the big time power-ups for me is hanging out with my little wacky blind shelter dog, Minnie. And Minnie's actually a great example of resilience and kind of a role model for me. So I adopted her when I used to work at an animal shelter. And get this, she was this blind little dog that was found wandering around some town in Maine. And it was pretty clear from how anxious and unsocialized she was, that she'd had a really rough life, the first part of her life. But even though she's blind and had a really rough life, she's just the cheeriest, chipperish, probably not a word, can do little soul. And so it's hard not to feel happy and uplifted when I'm around here. Maybe you're like me, you like being around wild critters. This is Chippy, one of my little four-footed friends. Um, but you have your own things that boost you up. What are power-ups for you? So examples, fun conversation with a friend. I just had two really fun networking conversations this morning. One was over the phone, one was a Zoom meeting, and just two really interesting people. So I just felt really jazzed up. And actually, hey, here's something related to emotion, how important it is to learn how to shift our emotional state. I decided to record this version after my second conversation because I was so jazzed up after these two conversations, like, hey, I'm in a really uplifted emotional state. Now's the time to record this, because it is a little weird just talking into a to a laptop and not seeing anybody there and knowing nobody's there real time. So anyway, I digress. Feeling gratitude. In a future webinar, I'm going to do more of a deep dive of the power of gratitude. But just to think about some of the things you have to feel grateful for. I was joking with a friend during the early part of the whole coronavirus thing, when, like many people, I was running out of toilet paper and I went to Sam's Club, and I see people with these big boxes of like industrial toilet paper walking away from the paper aisle, and like you cue up the angelic choir, like the hallelujah chorus. And as I'm like walking there, striding with my cart, feeling so grateful that there's toilet paper. And I called a friend later. I said, that's kind of lowering the bar in terms of gratitude, that you're all pumped up to get toilet paper. But actually, lowering the bar on gratitude is a good thing to help us feel the more humble we are in our gratitude for the simple, humble things in our lives, the more filled with gratitude we are, and the more filled with energy we are. That's a real powerful power. I'll talk more about gratitude in another webinar. Expressing gratitude. One of the things I love to do is, whether it's face-to-face, whether it's an email, whether it's actually send a note to friends to let them know how much I appreciate them. And you know from your own experience that when you express gratitude or give a compliment, not only does the other person feel good, but you feel good. And so feeling gratitude, expressing gratitude, great power-ups also boost our dopamine level. Again, that feel-good biochemical. Sincere compliment, or just seeing another. I won't get into a lot of the scene right now. I'll save that for later. But it's just, you have certain friends in your life, and maybe a partner or family member, who just really get you and all your idiosyncratic weirdness and awesomeness, that for people, when they really know who we are and what we like in life, what we don't like in life, how we roll, if you will. It's rare that people spend the time to truly see other people. So that's a wonderful gift you can give others and also power up. Sharing wins, sources of joy and gratitude with your team. I definitely recommend, especially working remotely, that you incorporate that into team meetings. Watch an inspiring video. Just go to YouTube and put in inspiring video, and you'll see both excerpts of really inspiring speeches and then um, other videos that are more visually inspiring. Inspiring music. Actually, sort of a true confession. I stumbled upon on YouTube epic battle music, believe it or not. Maybe I put in inspiring music and an epic battle music came up, but there's some great videos, and I just listen to the music because it's just a static image. So like you're working out, and I'll listen as I'm walking and play like epic battle music. And man, talk about the mind-body connection, how much it shifts my emotional state. And a lot of times some of my best ideas creative ideas have come from walking really fast and listening to epic battle music. So whatever works for you. Fun music. So any music that just gets you jazzed up and feeling great, and uh, obviously dancing to it if you want. Watch an inspiring movie. Somebody after the webinar, I'd asked people if they could email me recommendations of inspiring movies. I was thinking of Hidden Figures and Defiance. Braveheart is one of my all-time favorites. Not for the faint of heart. Gladiator, also not for the faint of heart. And this lady emailed me The Pursuit of Happiness. Oh man, I've seen that multiple times. If you've never seen that, highly recommend. And also what it speaks to me, and this is something I'll talk about in an upcoming webinar, one of the um, perceptual shifts that I have used over the years is to remind myself, this is a tough chapter. It's not the whole story. And that's one of the reasons why I love inspiring movies, and The Pursuit of Happiness is an example of that, is because when the hero of the story is going through a really hard time, that's not his whole story. And especially it was a Chris Gardner is a person who Pursuit of Happiness is based on his life. We know the end of the story. It's an amazing, inspiring story. Um, and yet during that hard time, just how daunting it was. So this is kind of a sneak preview for another webinar that I'll do. But right now, especially if you're being furloughed, to think this is a chapter, this is not the whole story, just like The Pursuit of Happiness or other inspiring movies. Cute or funny animal videos. This link was when I did the webinar, we were going to play it, but we didn't have time. It's a funny video of an otter eating cereal. So research shows that watching cute or funny animal videos boosts your dopamine level and also oxytocin. And oxytocin is a biochemical that makes us more patient and loving and altruistic. So if I was talking with I do career coaching. I was talking with a career coaching client, and it's funny because she said how her boss, she's working remotely right now, is doing timesheets for people to be accountable and keep track of their time. And she said she actually found it really helpful. It helped her stay focused. And so you can now, with full confidence, put in your timesheet if you do those. Watch cute animal videos. You can justify it because they are legitimate power-ups, which are making you not only more productive, but also potentially more creative if you have work that you get a chance to come up with creative ideas. So there you go. Learn something cool, something fascinating. I don't know about you, but if learning is one of those things that jazzes you up, I find myself, and sometimes I'm feeling kind of flat if I read, watch a fascinating video or read something cool in a book, just how jazzed up I get. So that might work for you. Obviously, movement is huge, especially outdoors and in nature. The human nervous system evolved to be in a natural environment. So that's obviously important. And then these are just a few to get you started. So I really encourage you to be thinking about what other things, uh, boost my spirits and boost my energy level, and pay attention to it. Be when you're going throughout the day, notice what you engage in that uplift you, and think about, okay, how, let's do more of this so I have more power-ups and I'm strengthening my vagal tone. So to summarize, real world power-ups boost our mood are the one key to being resilient, aka stress resistant. So next steps, identify the power-ups that work for you. Ask others about theirs and try them out. So you might have a friend that's like, oh, I really find such and such is a real power-up. Like, oh, okay, I'll try that. Implement throughout the day. And if you're supervised, well, if you're just not just, but a fellow team member, share the idea. And you can, you can share this video with your team members. But if you're supervisor, coach your team to be doing that, to be mindful and intentional so they can be boosting their spirits throughout the day. So that's the number one thing. And last but not least, how to tune your brain to recognize opportunities where you typically would only see chaos and crisis.